Good morning, everyone, and welcome to EAB University. I am hoping all of you are warm and comfortable and are having a great day. We thank you for participating in today's Emerald Ash Borer University. I'm Robin Osborne from Michigan State University, one of the coordinators of this program, along with my colleagues Adam Witte from Purdue University and Amy Stone from The Ohio State University. We hope you'll be enlightened with the great information you'll be provided today on this webinar. Today, Adam Witte will be presenting information on how to save money in ash trees through organizing neighborhoods. He is providing some case studies which he hopes will benefit communities wrestling with EAB, and he also hopes to hear from others who have done this type of organizing so that he can add those insights to the list of case studies on this topic. And for a little bit about Adam, he has completed both his undergrad and master's degrees in entomology at Purdue University. He used to treat ash trees for his father's landscape company in Fort Wayne, Indiana, during the summers while at school. After completing his master's degree, he took a position at Purdue as the exotic forest pest educator, where he works with multiple projects dealing with invasive species awareness and best management practices. You'll see the chat pod on the left of the screen. Feel free to type comments and questions there. We will make a note of them, and Adam will be responding to the questions after his presentation so that we can keep the flow of the webinar smooth. And we would like you to stay tuned until the end because we would like to get your feedback, and we will be providing a link to a survey that we'd like you to participate in. As well, for those of you needing CEUs, your survey information is necessary for us to process those CEUs. The first 10 people to participate will receive an EAB goodie bag. Even if you've received an EAB goodie bag in the past, we would appreciate your continued feedback on this seminar and webinar as well. This webinar is being recorded and it will be available for viewing after April 14th at www.emeraldashborer.info. You will also find the recordings for all previous EAB University webinars there. And please give us feedback about you because we are always want to know how we can make these better. Thank you for attending today. And with that, I will bring up Adam's presentation and we will begin.
All right. Thanks, Robin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining. Kind of a small crowd so far, but hopefully more people will file in as we continue. So this is an overview of today's webinar. First, I'll highlight a few tools that could be useful for preparing for emerald ash borer, including the Neighbors Against Bad Bug concept and using the EAB Cost Calculator to compare management strategies. Then I'll show you a couple case studies where using EAB or using the NAB concept and the cost calculator help save neighborhoods money and preserve their urban canopy. So some of you may already be familiar with this, so just bear with us for a moment. But EAB does kill over 99.9% of ash trees that have not been protected with pesticide. We do get these weird anomalies where an ash tree won't die in an area ran wild with EAB, but those tend to occur in more forested areas. For ash trees in urban settings, there are basically two management options. You can either protect the trees with insecticides or remove. And then ash and woodlots and riverbanks, those are usually too numerous to protect cost effectively with pesticides, and there's usually no management with those. Lastly, generating proactive management strategy for EAB is very beneficial because it allows people to decide the fate of their trees and not the beetle. So why plan for EAB in advance? Well, the most obvious answer is to save trees and future and current canopy. The treatments are most effective before infestation since the efficacy of treatments are dependent on the health of the vascular tissue, which is where the EAB larvae feed. What a lot of people don't take into consideration are the economic benefits provided by trees. So this is the tree benefits the tree benefits calculator developed by Casey Trees and Davey Tree Co. Basically, you input your location, so your city or your zip code, and then you enter where the tree is located. So a single residential home or an industrial area or a park, for example. And then you also enter the species of tree, the size of tree, and dBH, and the calculator will spit out the benefits the tree is providing in a dollar amount. So here we have a 29-inch ash tree, and the tree is providing roughly $220 every year. And there's this pie chart. There's this pie chart over here that breaks down the economic services provided by the tree with a dollar amount tied to it. And you can see that stormwater runoff takes up most of this pie with over $100 every year. And then if you need more details, just click on these little tabs up here, and it'll tell you how it breaks it down. So planning ahead also saves communities money. They have time to conduct tree inventories, find out just how many ash trees they're dealing with, and can begin removing those trees that are already in poor health or of low value. That way they can space out removal costs and budget for them. Lastly, planning ahead helps preserve aesthetics. So the idea here is the sooner you take action, the more successful the treatments, the more canopy preserved, the more property value gained. Also replanting trees of a resistant species, not an ash tree, obviously, will give time for establishment before removing ash that aren't worth salvaging. So you can see over here, these people planted this oak here in between these two ash trees. So they're going to get as much value out of that canopy as long as they can in these ash trees before they have to take them down. And by the time they take them down, this tree will already have a couple of years of establishment. It'll probably be a few inches larger, and they'll get to enjoy a nice tree in the very near future. Okay, so if planning ahead for EAB is so beneficial, why do we have communities waiting until EAB is upon them before they act? Well, procrastination is a very common human response when we are faced with an unfamiliar problem. So people are often too busy until the problem shows up on their doorstep. And another cause for delay is that people just simply don't have enough information about the problem. They oftentimes are unaware of what they stand to lose from EAB. They don't know where ash trees are in their communities or how many ash trees they have. Then you're also aware that EAB is a death sentence. If you have an ash tree in your yard, it will most likely die if it's not treated. So commonly folks don't know what kind of management responses are available to deal with the problem or how to integrate those management tactics and develop a response plan. So that's where Neighbors Against Bad Bugs comes in. This is a community outreach program that teams up master gardeners, extension educators, tree volunteer groups, and community members to determine the best management practices for urban ash trees. This is how NAB is structured. The Purdue EAB Outreach and Education Program provides training guides, tools, materials to Purdue Master Gardeners, extension educators, and community organizers. And then these trained individuals bring their expertise for ash tree identification out to their communities and work with neighborhood associations and other groups to organize volunteers for tree tagging events. So the main goal of NAB is to motivate planning before the arrival of EAB. One of the primary ways NAB seeks to do this is by raising awareness of the location and abundance of ash trees through tree tagging events, which make the neighborhood ash trees more visible. So you can see down here where they have all these flyers tagged to these trees. If you get somebody just, strolling through the park or going on a jog, they see all these pieces of paper strung up to the tree and they're, pretty interested. They go up and take a look and see what it is and notice that that tree is most likely doomed if nothing's done about it. So This really hits home with a lot of people when they can actually see how many trees are at risk in their neighborhood. So, excuse me. Usually only trees in the right-of-way are tagged. This encourages neighbors to band together to make decisions about their publicly held ash trees and to act as a group, which can allow them to negotiate better prices for tree care services and maximize the use of management dollars. Right here, this is an example of one of the weatherproof tree tags that our program provides for tagging events. It has information on how to contact the outreach team and our web address so people can access the ash tree management info. I can send these out to people in Indiana, so if you'd like to have this flyer, feel free to contact me and I can send you as many as you need. If you're outside of Indiana, I can send you the design and you can make edits yourself and then print them on your own dollar and use them as you'd like. Here's the website where you can get all the information you need on NAB. Right here, Neighbors Against Bad Bugs. So just go to eabindiana.info and then click on this link right here. And it'll take you to this page, which has more information on what is NAB, how to prepare your neighborhood for EAB, how to organize a tree tagging event in your neighborhood, and contact information. And then there's also these printable guides over here that are informational guides on EAB. And this one's a decision guide to help you make a decision on what to do with your ash trees. And Robin put my email up in the chat box. Thanks, Robin. Okay, let's transition now to talk about the EAB Cost Calculator. This is a very handy tool to help compare EAB management options. It was developed by Cliff Sadoff, who I asked to join us since he's the expert and designed this, and he can correct any errors I might make through the chat box. He's coming all the way from Spain, so it's probably around his dinner time. So thank you for being here. And the cost calculator can also be found at the same page, eabindiana.info, and it's right here at the right side. Okay, let me turn this off. So quickly, this is what the cost calculator does. Version 2.0 is driven by an EAB invasion wave model. It assumes it takes up to 8 years for EAB to kill all the ash trees in your city after detection in your county. So it helps stage your response based on percentage of ash trees that are dying. It also helps you evaluate management plans post-invasion wave. You can compare annual and cumulative costs of management of your management plan over 25-year period, and compare size of forest remaining over 25 years. Finally, it generates a printed report of projected costs of up to 3 management strategies at a time. But you need a few things before you can get started. You need to know an inventory of the number and size of ash trees that you're dealing with in DBH, which is the diameter at breast height. Estimate of cost for removing and treating trees based on the size of each tree, and estimate of cost for replacing each ash tree as that is removed. This makes the model much more accurate if you have these already determined or know what they're going to be. Otherwise, the calculator will input average numbers for these two categories. And then you select up to 3 management options to compare on the graphs at the same time. And these are probably the most common 3 management options: treat ash trees with insecticides, remove ash trees, replace ash trees with resistant trees. But there's many more options available, and you'll see all of those as I go through an example. So here's an example of a forest I did just for this demonstration. So first you have to make an account. It's real simple. You just pick a username and password, and then it stores all the forests that you might enter in that account. So Cliff and I actually are sharing an account on here, and we have probably 30 to 40 forests stored under his username. For this one, I just did EABU forest, and then I can input a description. So this just helps you identify what forest you did. If you do a whole bunch of forests, you might forget what that one was all about. Okay, this is the one that was an example for webinar. Then you enter the number of trees in each size class. So here I chose 0 for 1 to 3 inches, 5 for 3 to 6 inches, 25 from 6 to 12, 20 from 12 to 18, and 5 from 18 to 24. And then I can just click either down here at View Comparison Now, or I can go over here to Customize Cost and Infestation Stage and input more parameters, like if I know EAB's in the area, how long it's been in the area. I can manipulate treatment costs, replacement costs, removal costs, as well as some other parameters. So here's all the options that you had to choose from. Option 1, I selected Replace Unsafe Ash. Option 2, Replace All. And Option 3, Treat All. And you can see there's a lot more, treat 30% more to buy time, save 50%, etc. So then these options show up in the graph as you select them. The first graph shows annual costs, and the bottom graph shows cumulative costs. Let's start by looking at the replace unsafe ash trees right here. So the first 4 years, not much is going on, and only a small portion are dying. Then over the next 4 years, the line spikes and then dips after all the trees have been replaced. The replace all, we have, it's pretty stable over the first 7 years or so. As the model's told that that it'll take 7 years to replace all the ash trees. You can adjust this. If you want all your ash trees to be replaced in 3 years, you just put that in there that you want it done in 3 years instead of 7. And then the treat all line, it's pretty steady for the first 12 years, and then treatment starts zigzagging. That's because this is the aggressive management plan. So after 12 years, you can back off and start doing every other. So this is another parameter you can adjust how many years in between treatments after the 12 years of extensive treatment. So here it's just every other year. Sometimes you can put in there, maybe we're going to do every 4th year we'll treat. So in this example, looking at the cumulative graph, at year 18, that's when treatment costs will finally exceed the replace unsafe ash option. And at year 22, we'll finally exceed the replace all option. However, this graph shows the total size of our forest. So with the treat all option, we're obviously going to have much more cumulative DBH compared to the other ones, and DBH is always directly correlated to canopy size. Another thing that the cost calculator does is it gives a cost distributed by ash tree size. So this is the information on what the costs are within each size class of trees between options. You can scroll across and see each year and what the distribution is. It also gives the number of trees in each size class each year. And at the bottom, there's the print function where the calculator organizes a nice report for you on your forest and the management options you selected. So let's look at a couple case studies. Here's a neighborhood in Greenwood, Indiana that has 600 ash trees that approximately 9 inches DBH was their average, and 222 homeowners. They had 2 options, remove and replace, or option B, protect all. $54 per homeowner per year is what they were quoted at for doing all 600 ash trees by one company. So over 12 years, it'll be roughly $300 per homeowner, and they'll have on average 15-inch DBH trees after 12 years of growth. They went with option B, and this is what their ash trees look like right now. Well, this was last fall, so still healthy canopy. The leaf drop is from fall. It's not from emerald ash borer. What helped them make this decision was looking at the cost calculator. So here are the graphs on the cost. Basically, the replace unsafe ash option, they pretty much break the bank in years 6 and 7, where they're spending almost 6 figures each year to replace the unsafe ash trees. The replace all option is pretty steady at around $40,000 a year for the first 6 years before dropping off. And the treat all option is pretty stable at just over $10,000 for the first 12 years. And then they go into every 3rd year, they treat again after the aggressive management period. And so looking at the projection for cumulative costs, Greenwood is going to stay under the other two options after 25 years. So that's a win-win situation where they're spending less money cumulatively, and they're spreading their costs over a longer period of time. And they also get another win because they are going to have much greater forest size after 25 years compared to these other two options, where the replace all is just now finally getting back to where they were at before 25 years sooner. I'm going rather quickly through this, so please ask any questions. Hope that I get plenty. This is another example. Camelback is a condominium neighborhood in West Lafayette, Indiana. They had 56 ash trees, and they had quite fewer than Greenwood, and they had on average 17 inches, so much larger than Greenwood also. And they were quoted at $5,500 for the entire treatment project for the first year. So they use a cost calculator to see if it'd be worth their while to go ahead and treat. This zigzag pattern here, they're using the triage product. If you listen to Dan Herm's webinar last week, he talked about all the different insecticides that are available, and the triage is one that you apply every other year. It's not every year. So it's a little bit more pricier, but you get a break every other year. So we keep seeing this trend with the replace unsafe ash. It's an exponential growth curve. So at 1 year, you're just going to spike, and you're going to have to bite the bit and spend over $15,000 in year 6 just to replace trees that year. The replace all, they were going to do it in 3 years, so they kind of cram it into the first 3 years, and they don't have to deal with it after year 5. Or after year 5, they're done. Well, the cumulative costs are going to finally catch up to the replace options in year 19 at $36,000. So they kind of have to take this into consideration. Is it worth treating for all this time? And we're going to end up finally exceeding the replacement options. Well, they thought it was worth their while when they saw how much, what the size of their forest after 25 years compared to the other two. These other two aren't even near what they originally started at in cumulative DBH. And with the treat all option, they're much higher. So looking hold on one second. Let's go back to the National Tree Benefit Calculator. And if we project the average size of these urban trees in 25 years, each tree will be approximately 12 inches larger, assuming that trees gain half an inch in diameter each year. So this will make the new average around 29 inches. So at roughly $220 per tree per year, Camelback is looking at over $10,000 in return on investment in this projected year alone. So sometimes it's really hard for people to see the value in trees or even to believe these sort of numbers. But I would trust Casey Trees and Davey tree coat because they have really great research programs, and they provide great tools like this. Okay, so to summarize, EAB will kill untreated ash trees. Collaborating with others nearby reduces your treatment costs. EAB Cost Calculator is a great tool to help determine the best management options. Successful treatment always results in more canopy, urban forest canopy. It's not always the most economical option, and sometimes it's better to go ahead and remove, but you'll always have less urban canopy in the long run. And the more canopy present, the more economic benefits provided by each tree. So we're looking for more case studies to help validate this approach. So please send me your contact information if you if you know of a similar scenario. Things like groupings of trees being treated by one company or using a collaborative approach to treat trees. We'd be really grateful if we could get a few more of these case studies and put together a nice presentation or paper and further demonstrate this approach. So with that, I am done with my presentation. If anyone has any questions, let me start going through the chat box. Cliff answered that one for me, thanks. Is the tree benefits? Yes, the first version was published in Arboriculture and Urban Forestry. Okay, thanks, Cliff. So the SLAM method is, that's the urban SLAM. It is developed by Deb McCulloch, and it's the idea of treating 40%, randomly selecting 40% of the trees in a forest. And by doing so, you protect all of the trees in the entire area. This was a model that was developed. It hasn't been tested yet, so there's a few trials going on with the urban SLAM in real world. We're doing one here in Lafayette, and we're also doing one in Terre Haute, Indiana. Hopefully we get good results. To clarify, the cost calculator timeline starts at detection. You can select when the timeline starts. So you input at which point or how many years it's been in your area, and you can adjust it from that. Otherwise, it'll just assume that you're starting at detection. Do you know who organizes the NAB program? That's something that we do here at Purdue. Actually, I'm working with somebody right now to do a NAB program in a neighborhood nearby. It's more of a concept outside of Indiana rather than a program, just because we have Purdue's master gardeners that can help us out. We have other volunteer groups that we've collaborated with that that like to get volunteer hours, and so they'll go out and help us identify the trees and tag them, and then the neighborhood hires a company to come in and treat all the trees, so they get a massive discount. So because the company no longer has to go and solicit at every household and try and get business, they can just walk in, see the trees that are tagged, and treat those. And they already know the sizes and everything, so it reduces their workload a lot. Did that answer your question, Lisa?
Adam, this has all been good information. I especially like the good, going over of the cost calculator. It really was appreciated.
Yeah, the cost calculator is an awesome tool, and I think it's underutilized. It's I used it when I used to treat for my dad's company up in Fort Wayne. I try and show clients, uh, we tried to show golf course owners, the threat and the comparative costs, and they didn't want to believe us, so now they're biting the bullet and spending a whole bunch of money on removal costs. And um, but yeah, it's a great tool, and always like to advocate its use.
Okay, are there other questions? If not, at this point, you do have Adam's email to contact him with any questions. And again, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the eab.info site next week.